I start with removing this connector. The reason is simple. If you have your battery, your lipo, you see that it just takes a lot of space. I do it with a plier. With the pliers, it was completely gone. The next thing what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use, instead of the SD card, I'm gonna use the SD NAND chip. This is an IC that behaves like an SD card, but it's on a PCB, and I can solder it so that the layout is better, so you don't need that extra space for the SD card. I do this with a header pin, 2 header pins, but you need in total 6 connections, so 2 header pins and some wires. Okay. Now I'm not completely satisfied. Now I soldered this one. Nope, that's it. And try to put it a little bit. Yes. Now the other one. Okay. Remove with my pliers the plastic part. Okay. Because it has to sit tight, I use some tape. You know, you can solder. Okay, take a look. Then solder the other one. So I use just thin wire. Okay. this one. I'm going to use the Beitian GPS module, the small one, BE182. It comes with a connector and with about 15 centimeters of wire. This is the module. It is about 18 millimeters in width and height. And this is the connector with the wires. These are the connections. So the black wire goes to ground. The red one goes to pin 26, but in parallel is pin 27 and pin 25. You can see that here I made a bridge. And then we have the serial connection. Yellow is pin 32 and white is pin 32. And then of course we have our reed switch, which goes between ground, this is the ground connection, and then the VN solder pad. The wires are too long, so first I'm going to cut them on the right length. And then what you also see that here with the black one, with the ground, there are two wires. One is for the GPS module, but the other one is used for the charging board. And we do the same with VBAT here. Now you see only here one, but also the lipo has to be connected to VBAT. The ground lipo we can choose. Here I made some grounds. These 4 pins are ground, or this one is used, and here is still another ground that we can use also. What you need for soldering is of course solder. I like to use the 1 millimeter thickness. There is a flux core in this solder wire, and it's normal solder with lead. So don't use the lead free, that's much more difficult to solder. The classic solder with lead is the best to use. Then we need sharp pliers here. So with this plier you can strip the wire. So I'm going here. You have to be careful. You first cut it and then you strip it. But I have even a better stripping tool, that's this one. Very easy. So I like this one. And then of course a solder iron with a fine tip. I have a Weller, very good solder station. Alright, both ground wires are in the solder pad. And now we're going to solder them. Okay. That's it. And now I'm gonna cut with my pliers. Okay. Now I still have to make the bridge this way. Okay. That's it. Bridge is okay. Now we can test if the connection is okay. So we connect with USB and we power up the device. Okay, the SD card, the SD NAND IC is also recognized. We have 119 free space. Now it's first gonna search for Wi-Fi, but because it is not set, it will not find it. Then it tried another Wi-Fi network. This can be used when you make a hotspot with this name. But also I have no hotspot active, and after that it should go to the GPS. Okay. I see some light on GPS, that's a good sign. Now we're gonna try for the different baud rates and which kind of type. And it found it. It is an M10 module with 115 kilobaud. Okay. You see on the blue LED that it is now blinking with 5 Hertz. So this is working completely fine. Okay, we can proceed. Gonna switch it off again. Okay. Alright, now the read switch. First I'm gonna test if it works. Okay. This one works. So I'm going to position it about here. That's the idea. I use a little bit of tape to fix it. And now we're going to solder it. And here I'm going to bend it. Almost. Before you solder, you really have to be sure that it touches, like this one here. Almost. Okay. Now we can test it out. Okay, it's again connected, and I'm gonna see if I can switch it off with the magnet. Okay, that is working. Now we're gonna switch it on again. I have to wait something like 5 seconds before I can switch it on again. Okay, that's working. First I'm gonna make the wires a little bit shorter. There's the minus. Okay. I'm gonna cut this here. Let's switch it on. Okay. That is working. Now I'm gonna fix the lipo with some hot glue. Okay. I'm going to check the thickness. $40 millimeters. It seems to be okay. Now I'm going to solder the charger, the wireless charging. Important. You have to use the plus and minus of the BET connection. The left one is the 5 volt, the right one is the 4.2 volt. And also very important, don't make a short circuit, because these wires are directly connected to the lipo. Okay, let's check if it works. Now the test of the charging. I'm going to switch it on. Okay, and now we put it here on the charger. Okay. That's already a good sign. So we see that the voltage is rising. We are now at 80%. And when it's not charging, it goes down. So the charging seems to work just fine. Now the next step is to glue the GPS module and the charging board. I do that with double-sided tape. Okay. That's the GPS module. Okay. And now the coil. For the coil I use some tape. And then the ferrite tape. This one has to cover the lipo. Okay. Height fits. So now first we test all functions and then we can glue it forever, hopefully. Okay, we're gonna glue everything together now. So we have here the part that's come and here also we remove the protective tape. Okay. I'm going to use this glue special for PMMA. Okay. And then with some heavy weight. Now I'm going to do a seal test, the bubble test. So I use here hot water. You see something like 50-60 degrees. And the idea is that the air inside will expand and will try to escape. And when you see bubbles, then you have a leak. But this looks rather good. I don't see any bubbles. It looks that it's perfectly sealed. Okay. This is my router setup. I have one from Parkside. Very satisfied with it. So I have here a bit with the radius. I have to, of course, I have to overrule, make that it always turns. I put it in this bucket. And then you have to pay attention to the direction of the router bit. Best is that you go against the direction of the router bit. It works very, very nice. But it's dangerous, don't forget it. Because if your finger comes to the router, it will also be gone. Eh? After the router, we're gonna test again the sealing. Just the same. Again, the bubble test. And it is completely sealed. Now I'm going to remove the plastic protection. Always very satisfying. And there it is. if you check the glue, then you see it's not perfect. You have little air pockets in here. But as long as you don't have a connection to the outside, it is sealed. The back side is better, I think, because when you do the back side, you don't have any pressure of the enclosed air. But at the front side, I always have a little some bubbles. But nevertheless, I'm satisfied. Now let's see if it still works. Okay. Okay, very happy. Now, I'm also going to make a 3D print cover for this, so that you have attachments, so you can attach it to your arm or to your boom. But my 3D printer is ordered, but not received yet.